Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, Richard Mack on your radio, CSPOA.org, the good sheriffs in the house. This is the broadcast for April 29th in the year of our Lord, 2025. This is Hour 2 of 2. Promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property, using the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America as our guide, rejecting revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. Talking about Donald Trump's first 100 days. And if you listen to it, it sounds like I'm bashing the Donald. And I think Donald's biggest mistakes are, one, if you live, you die by the executive order. That's first of all. You got to get Congress involved. You can't just ignore those checks and balances. Even though they don't want to go along with you, you've got to use the American people and use the bully pulpit to get them to work with you, not just try to circumvent them with too many executive orders. The other problem Donald Trump's done is he's basically, he's put the bar way too high. I mean, he wants you to believe that America is just going to be basically the, the best in the world, and just give him one day. He'll get it done. I mean, he literally said he was going to stop the war in Ukraine in a day. It's 100 days later, and it's not even close. Okay? He said big, beautiful tariffs are going to be incredible. Right now, the American people are just wondering how they're going to pay the bills. There's been no relief to the American people whatsoever. With immigration, hey, they've done a lot of good. They've claimed they've deported 139,000 thugs. That's awesome. But they've set the bar so high to where it's like, you know what? I don't know that we'll ever be satisfied with what they've promised. Too much high bar rhetoric. You'll never make the bar. But now you got Senator Rand Paul saying he's got the votes to block Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. Well, now you've got Thomas Massie against Trump. You've got Rand Paul against Trump. You've got Mike Johnson slow-walking Donald Trump's efforts. Donald Trump needs to go on a relationship campaign. Okay? But here's the problem. Now the liberal Democrats are going berserk. They've overcome they can't believe they lost so spectacularly, their mouths are shut deal, to where now they're starting to fight and push back, and they're doing it by dividing conservatives. We're so divided it's not even funny. I mean, I support Rand Paul and Thomas Massie in their efforts, but Donald Trump's ready to get rid of them suckers. Keep the Mike Johnsons. Mike Johnson's the clown that slow-walked everything Donald's been trying to do over the last 100-plus days, okay? Mike Johnson is an enemy, in my opinion. He's the guy that knew Joe Biden was absolutely incompetent to run the president executive position, and he sat on that for a year, even letting Joe Biden try to run for a next term. He didn't speak up. A year later, he said, I knew about it. Well, in my opinion, that makes Mike Johnson pretty criminal, too. Allowing somebody who's not even competent to serve in their current capacity to possibly run and get 4 more years? Shame on Johnson. Well, anyway, I digress, but the Democrats are coming out swinging, and here's the evidence. Republicans cannot know a moment of peace, says the headline. Governor joins ranks of Democrats calling for political violence, openly, blatantly. The language is all too familiar and can only be used to describe an assassination prep scenario, carefully cloaked in, quote, moral outrage. What am I talking about? Well, they want to incite the most egregious acts. The story's by Bob Unruh, WND.com. Democrats long have let their rhetoric move at full speed into dangerous territory where they actually are seen for advocating as violence, even physical violence. Now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzer, a Democrat billionaire, has joined the ranks of those making very suspicious comments. The Federalist has a report at a special Democrat assembly. He says this, quote, this is J.D. Pritzer, never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box, literally calling for political violence. Now, if I called for that, I'd be arrested, Sheriff.
Maybe. I don't know if that was that saying physical violence. I don't know. I don't think it was specific enough but you never know what they'd arrest you and me for, because they've been trying to go after us for a long time. But yeah, and obviously they would love to get the opportunity to arrest Trump again, but that's not going to happen while he's in there now. So but this is the thing. The Democrats and what they're doing, and the leftist, extremists, socialists, communists of the Democrat Party are so worlds worse than what Trump has been doing and what he's been trying to do. And they've caused all these problems with some complicity of certain Republicans. And I'm not so certain that Tom Massey hasn't helped with that, and Rand Paul, that if they would be upfront with the president and say, hey, I got some problems, let's talk about them first before we go public. And
yeah, we don't know if they have or not, and we have no way to know that.
No, we don't. But I think one of them would have said it. I think Trump would say, look, I had a meeting with them, but it didn't work out, and they're not really sincere about, because if I was Trump, I'd be saying, why don't they bring this to me instead of the press that neither one of us trust, So
I wonder how many congressmen. I wonder how many congressmen and senators can actually get a hold of Trump.
Well, I know we can't, but of course they can.
I don't know if they can or not.
Of course they can. They can call over to the White House.
And then some minion will answer and say Donald's busy. Next.
Yeah, and all they have to say to his people is whoever, and they call the chief of staff or whatever, and all they have to say is, I have a problem with what Trump's doing on this tariff thing or whatever else, and I'd like to sit down and discuss it with him. And they should all be able to say that.
Let's try an experiment right now on your radio. Ready, Liz? We're going to dial 202-225-3121. And then we're going to get transferred to Rand Paul's office, and we're just going to flat out see if we can get a hold of Rand Paul's. Not only Rand Paul, probably can't get a hold of him. Let's see if we can even get his office, and let's ask them if they've reached out to Donald Trump about this.
Did they reach out to Trump? That's a great question.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, go ahead. Here's the number: 202-225-3121. And while she's dialing that, I'll just tell you that you need to become part of the CSPOA. That's the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Citizens Posse. Why? Because that's how we're making a difference all across the country, helping your most local elected executive obey the Constitution, stand for the checks and balances, protect citizens, make sure there's due process, and the list goes on and on and on of what a constitutional sheriff can do. Rand Paul's office, Kentucky.
Confirming. That was Senator
Rand Paul.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Please hold while I connect your call.
Here we go, people. Live on your radio. It's the middle of a work day, ladies and gentlemen. It's like 11:13 Eastern, right?
Thank you for calling the Washington, D.C. office of United States Senator Rand Paul. Sorry we cannot get to the phone right now. Please leave a message with your name, phone number, and email.
So the middle of a work day, they won't even answer the phone, but here's my message.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello, my name is Sam Bushman. I'm a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. I do a program called Liberty Roundtable Live. And I see this big kind of showdown between Rand Paul and President Trump, basically about this votes to block Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. I agree Congress is responsible for tariffs, not the president, so I get some of that. But I would like to know, has Rand Paul or his office reached out to try to sit down with President Trump to resolve this before this showdown?
You have reached the maximum length for a recording. To send this message, press pound or hang up. To play it, 3. To re-record it, 4. To add to it, 5. To discard it, 6. You have reached the maximum length for a recording. To send this message, press pound or hang up. To play it, 3. To
Yeah, they're
re-record
saying
it.
my message is
4.
too long. I can't
To
add to it
add
because it's
to
too
it.
long. So go ahead and just
5.
hang up.
To
So my message got sent, but I couldn't even leave a phone number. I don't think I talked even 30 seconds. Did I, Sheriff?
I don't know. It was about that, but
I was about to finish up and leave a number. But so the question is, did Rand Paul reach out to the president to sit down and work on this before this kind of blew up in the media? It's a great question from Sheriff Mack, and I don't know the answer. My problem is that not only do I not know the answer, I don't think I have any way to get the answer. How can I get the answer, Sheriff? What would I need to do?
That's probably the problem. Yeah. Well,
all right.
I will say that I did talk to live people numerous times when I was trying to help Sam Gerard, but it didn't do Sam or me any good.
Yeah, so whether Senator Rand Paul sits down with Donald Trump, I don't know if it'll do any good or not, but I agree it should be done. What I don't know is if it's been done or not. But see, here's the deal. Do you back Rand Paul, or do you back Donald Trump when it comes to this showdown?
Yeah, well, I say after the show, call him back and make it a short, and this is how you can get a hold of me. Our audience and everyone else is really looking for an answer. Has Rand Paul tried to meet with President Trump instead of just fighting this out in the press? Please call us back at such and such.
Okay, so I'm going to do this live, but I'm going to do it a little different. Senator Rand Paul. Okay, I'm being connected to the office of the senator now. This will go a lot faster than it will to put it all on the radio, but I'm going to leave this voicemail, and you guys can hear what I say. So now it says dialing. Now it's ringing. I'm waiting for it to ring, and I'm going to be very succinct this time. I'll probably get a voicemail, but why on earth at 11 a.m. in the middle of a work week am I getting a voicemail in the first place? Is there really nobody that can answer Senator Rand Paul's phone? For reals? I mean, each of these staff members for senators have 10 and 20 people on their staff. Nobody can answer the phone. So now I'm going to leave a message. Sorry, we can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message with your name, phone number, and an email. All right, here we go. Ready? It's about to beep. Here we go. My name is Sam Bushman. My phone number is 801-756-9133. My email is libertyroundtable@gmail.com. And I would like to know if Rand Paul has been able to reach out and sit down with Donald Trump about the tariff discussion before this blow-up story in the mainstream press. If somebody could call me back, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. Okay, it's done, Sheriff.
All right, love it.
And the reason I'm spending the time to do this is I want the American people to know that's what Americans need to be doing en masse. You need to be calling your members of Congress and saying, hey, I can't even get a hold of my member of Congress, Sheriff, really.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's hard to get a staffer. I call up a staffer and I say, hey, there's a bill to end funding for Planned Parenthood, and I can't even find out if my congressman is a sponsor or willing to sponsor or be on the bill. Can't even find that out. And so this is what I mean when I say, hey, the American people are missing in action. They need to be rioting about this. I don't mean literally, but I mean they need to be calling their congressmen and senators and saying, hey, we've got to have Congress act. Now the big debate is President Trump's big, beautiful bill going to get passed? So after this first 100 days, we're not going to really cut expenditures. We're just going to have a big, beautiful bill, Sheriff. You for it? You going to vote yes?
I'd have to wait and see on that.
All right, you've just been targeted for removal, my friend. How dare you go against the Donald and wait and see? What are you thinking? Aren't you Team Donald?
I just want to make sure that I see all angles first, all sides.
Imagine that. See, ladies and gentlemen, that's really how it should be. I concur. And I agree with the sheriff. I'm not just here trying to attack President Trump, but I am trying to be real about this. Look, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzer, this guy literally is threatening political violence, saying it's kind of like how Maxine Waters said, you know what, run him out of the office, run him out of the public square. I don't know that saying things like that is appropriate, Sheriff, and how close that he might not do the physical violence, but how long will it be till his rhetoric encourages someone to do something they shouldn't do?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, don't be saying stuff like that. We're not saying things like that about them.
Well, we deplore violence and always have, you and I. But the Democrats haven't. And the Democrats love it when it's on their side. And even Kamala Harris supported what was going on in Seattle and Portland. And so, and you're going to get more of this, she warned us. You're going to get more of this. She doesn't try to do anything to stop the violence, just like Obama when the violence was happening. And, that boy could have been my son that happened to. And, that kind of leadership. And that just goes to show you, socialists and communists, they're very violent, and so is a democracy. It turns out to be very violent. And it lends itself to corruption because politicians get to believing that democracy allows them to do anything they want. And you sure can't argue with that, because they say we've had a democracy for the last 200 years, and politicians just continuously steal more power, steal more money from the American people, and misspend it and illegally fund it to groups like Planned Parenthood. And it's all criminal. And these criminals will only go so far to go after criminals that are within their same stadium.
Yeah,
on the same
they protect
field.
one another.
Yeah, same playing field.
All right. So you and I have been against the IRS for quite some time. Would be more than pleased to just flat out shut the criminal enterprise down because it violates all the checks and balances.
Sure.
However, now Trump has been speaking out. So the question becomes: do you support ending the income tax for people making less than $200,000 a year, Sheriff?
Do I support that?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
All right. Income tax is nuked for those making under 200K, says President Trump. He says when tariffs cut in, many people's income tax will be substantially reduced. We need to eventually get rid of income tax for everybody, but let's start with the people under 200 grand. In other words, the president's tariffs and revised trade deals will generate enough revenue to scrap the income tax. And massive numbers of jobs are already being created. Trump has mentioned the External Revenue Service to raise tariffs, but now he's talking about, the IRS or whatever. So I support taxes being lowered for those people that are in that category, but I don't like creating scenarios that, pit one against the other. If I make 210 grand a year, now I'm pitted against the guy that makes under 200. I'm for tax breaks for any group, anytime. I would prefer all groups. But here's the point, or here's the question, Sheriff. Can Trump do anything to get rid of the IRS by himself?
He could make some big headway into it, but just as you've alluded to, Congress has to be involved. But I
don't see Congress talking about this at all.
I would support him trying everything he can to do it, though.
Amen. 100%.
Yeah, even if it violated the Constitution, going after criminals like that,
agreed.
And take a strong stand, I would still back him.
100%. So I'm not saying that I won't back him. I'm making a point, though, which is this. Right. What can you and I do to back him? We can go on the radio and express our support. We can call our members of Congress and talk to a voicemail if they even listen to it. What else can we do? What can we really do to help make this a reality?
Well, I think if Trump is really pushing it, the reality is a lot closer.
I agree with that 100%.
And if he could get Mike Johnson to finally do something instead of just hiding or talking every now and again.
Now, my opinion, Trump should have made that happen with Congress by law. In other words, legislation. First day, Sheriff.
Yeah. Don't
tell me 100 days later plus. I say plus because Congress has been there since the 4th or something. So they're almost, they're further than Trump by almost 20 days or 15 days.
Yeah, but they've had some vacations, and he really.
I know, but I'm not interested in their recesses or vacations, and I don't get any of those. They shouldn't either. Nevertheless, though, my point is, hey, why are we just discussing this 100 plus days in as a possibility? Did you even know Trump was offering that?
No, I didn't.
So we're 100 days in, and a guy like Sheriff Richard Mack, who's involved in the news on a daily basis, didn't even know. Now, I'm not downing Trump or Richard Mack for not knowing. I just barely found out, too. The reason that I bring it up, though, is because, hey, what do you mean 100 days in? Guys that would back Trump don't even know about it? How can we back him if we don't know about it, Sheriff?
Well, I did know that he was talking about reducing the no income tax for a certain group, and I thought he said 400,000 the first time.
He did,
but I didn't. But he added this other stuff.
He did. But in the end of the day, if Congress doesn't pass a legislation that says that, can he change that? Can he even do it?
Lawfully?
Yeah.
Constitutionally, probably not, but he can sure do a lot to get it going.
Like come on Liberty Roundtable Live and advocate for it and have partners in the media that would back your play? That kind of stuff?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. By the way, I typed in 2 words, IRS and Trump. And there's concerns over Trump sending the IRS. Trump's new IRS chief tries to steer an agency through turmoil. More than 20,000 IRS employees plan to resign. So let me get this right. Biden hires 80,000 and Trump gets rid of 20,000. See what I mean, folks? Trump replaces acting IRS commissioner just days after appointing him. Looks bad for Donald. Trump administration plans to end the IRS direct file program. Trump administration asks IRS to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. Trump's IRS pick some interesting people. Trump and Doge want to shrink the IRS. Trump wants to abolish the IRS and replace it with tariffs. Trump's pick for IRS commissioner is ousted. President Trump's cease and desist to the IRS protects middle class. This is how Trump's IRS layoffs could affect your taxes. I'm pausing because I'm skipping same headlines. Trump's attack on the IRS could cost the government $1 trillion, says MSN.
Well, like they're really worried about the spending of trillions on anything and everything else, including all the corruption and the lies and the dishonest funneling of money to other agencies and countries. So
Trump officials want to rewrite taxes. Tariffs and taxes. Could Trump actually eliminate the IRS? How the Trump administration is taxing the IRS. Trump may face $100 million IRS bill over skyscraper, Associated Press. Okay, I look at all those headlines, and most of them are negative, but none of them even tell you that story, and I'm looking on all the mainstream press. They're just saying Trump wants to eliminate the IRS, but there's no details. There's no Mike Johnson. There's nobody that's got a bill in Congress that's literally backing Trump's play. It's a slow walk, absolute. They've got Trump under the water, man, and they're clenching down on his throat, and he can't breathe. There's only a matter of seconds till he passes out if we're not careful.
Right.
The deep state's in charge, people, and they're about to flex their muscles. There's one way around it, though, and that's we, the people, get involved in a meaningful way and demand our congressmen and senators start to take action and create a literal state. Hey, man, all 435 of you clowns will be gone in 26 if you don't get this together immediately. If we, the people, don't do that, it's quaintance, my friends. I don't mean to be so negative. I'm just telling you the reality on the ground. We have made virtually no headway except for executive orders that can be overturned in a second by the next clown that gets in office. Other than that, what have we accomplished? A lot of talk, a lot of rhetoric, a high bar set. All talk and no action. Sounds like a country song, doesn't it? All right, hang tight. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The White House insists the economy is growing stronger 100 days into President Trump's second term.
The stock market is down and consumer confidence has dropped, but Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the president is delivering on his promise to lower prices.
Prices across the board for everyday goods have seen declines since this president was inaugurated.
As for market uncertainty, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that's good for Donald Trump's negotiations.
He is more concerned about getting the best possible trade deals.
And Bessent promises more price relief when Congress passes a tax cuts bill. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The Conference Board reports its closely watched Consumer Confidence Index has fallen to a reading of 86 this month. That's almost a 5-year low going back to the COVID days, and it is the 5th straight monthly decline in that index. What caused one of Europe's most disruptive power outages in recent memory? That is a question, but as of now, there's no answer. Electricity has been restored to the vast majority of utility customers in Spain and Portugal. The building in Chatham, Illinois, was crowded with kids. They were there for an after-school program when all of a sudden
a vehicle drove into the east side of the building. The vehicle struck multiple persons outside of the building before continuing through the building and exiting out on the west side of the structure.
Chatham Deputy Police Chief Scott Tarter telling WICS-TV that 4 people ranging in age from 4 to 18 years were killed in a horrific incident that was not targeted, although it does remain the subject of an ongoing police investigation. And watching Wall Street this hour, the Dow is up 276 points, the Nasdaq trading 51 points higher, the S&P better by 20. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
As you all know, Roe versus Wade has resulted in some of the most permissive abortion laws anywhere in the world. For example, in the United States, it's one of only 7 countries to allow elective late-term abortions, along with China, North Korea, and others. Right now, in a number of states, the laws allow a baby to be born from his or her mother's womb in the 9th month. It is wrong. It has to change. Americans are more and more pro-life. You see that all the time. In fact, only 12% of Americans support abortion on demand at any time. Under my administration, we will always defend the very first right in the Declaration of Independence, and that is the right to life.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, I've been particularly hard on President Trump because he set the bar so high in rhetoric before he got elected. But ladies and gentlemen, my goal is not to attack President Trump. The truth is, my goal is to highlight where we are. We've got a narrow window where solutions can be provided, recommendations, suggestions can be made. And I'm hoping somebody in the Trump administration listens to what I have to say. I'm not telling you I'm more important than anybody else, but between Sheriff Mack and I, we have a pretty good handle on what needs to happen. So what I want to do now, we've been very critical for a good reason, but now what I want to spend our time on, Sheriff Mack, if you don't mind, because I don't mean to be negative, and I wouldn't even be speaking out if it was a lost cause. I just believe we have a narrow window, and so I want to advocate for the best outcome that we possibly can. We want a peaceful outcome. We want solutions. We want to return to the Constitution. With that in mind, Sheriff, the headline's going to say Sheriff Mack and Sam Bushman make suggestions and provide solutions for Trump's next 100 days. Because really, we can't do anything about the past 100 days, even if we want to complain, right? But we can do something about the next 100 days. So let's talk about what would recommend Trump does different and or does that might move the needle towards checks and balances, towards a humble government, towards reduced spending. I mean, we can go on and on and on of the things we'd like to see. But let's advocate for it. Let's give concrete reality check examples that could make a difference, Sheriff.
Yeah, I agree totally with you.
All right,
yeah.
We're starting with you. What do you say? What should we do?
Well,
we got the next 100 days in front of us.
I would play I would play that ad you just did with Trump talking about life. And he quoted the Declaration of Independence, and the right to life is the number one first right that we all have.
And he was 100% correct. We support
Absolutely
him 1,000%.
That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard him say. And
amen.
He needs to say it more. And how about Rand Paul? I mean, he's totally supporting that. The people who support the right to life need to be talking about it more, and they need to be talking more about the corruption of sending taxpayer dollars to Planned Parenthood. You and I talk about it all the time. I talk about it on all these shows I've been doing. I've been doing 20, 30, 40 shows a month, and I have 5 today, and I'm going to be talking about that. I don't care what they ask me. I'm going to be talking about that, and it's and also about Sheriff Scott Jenkins getting a pardon. I hate injustice, and I'm really starting to wonder if people who are on our side to help Sheriff Jenkins are really doing something about it. And it's starting to annoy me, but I'm marching on, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I got a hold of Michelle Fiore yesterday, who just got pardoned by President Trump.
Phenomenal.
And so she's helping us now, and she's obviously got some connections there. So anyway, I would just simply say this. The deep state, as you mentioned before we went to break, the deep state going after President Trump have been very successful, especially the first term. I think that he's being on the attack more against them this time. And I think he has better people in his cabinet, although I question a couple of them. But I still think that Tom Homan is doing a good job. Pam Bondi, I questioned her at the beginning because she was pro-red flag laws. And if anybody's going to uphold and defend the Constitution, she has to know that that's unconstitutional. But I do support what she's doing now. She's very loyal to Trump's agenda. And she's kicking some butt, and I wanted to see that. I do want to see more aimed at public officials that are corrupt, not just these judges, but mayors and city council members and others that think they can get away with this. That's why CSPOA is fighting in Washington State to bring the AG and the governor back to the roots of the Constitution and fairness and justice. And that they don't know the simple thing that we are not a democracy, and so you don't get to do whatever you want. you're not in charge of the sheriff. The governor is not in charge of the sheriff. The AG is not in charge of the sheriffs in that state.
Neither is the president of the United States.
He's not in charge of the sheriffs. And so, but the sheriffs, National Sheriff's Association especially, doesn't know that either. So,
That's right.
So we still have a lot to do, but first and foremost, what's the most important thing we should be doing? What Trump just said on the ad. We should be protecting life. The sheriffs should be protecting life.
Amen.
And having all of us walk around acting like there's nothing wrong. And I'm going to say something else. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known as the Mormon Church, the leadership in that church should be protecting number one, and that is life. And that they ask us to pay taxes to this corrupt government that funnels that money to Planned Parenthood is absolutely immoral, wrong, and evil.
Couldn't agree more. 100%. And I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to attack any church. I want everyone to stand for pro-life. To stand for pro-life because you know what, folks? The whole purpose of government is to protect life, liberty, and property. If we don't do those things, what's the value of government at all, Sheriff?
Right.
All right. Now, I will say this. I still don't know what Donald Trump's plan is on the border or on deportations, which is kind of a problem. But I will say this. I want to make suggestions for President Trump for the next 100 days. And I believe Rand Paul.
Be clear, though. Let's be clear here.
Yeah.
He has done a terrific job of securing the border.
Yes, he has. Him, Tom Holman, and all the people have done a great job. And I commend them, and I hope they do more.
Right.
And again, this isn't always just criticism. We've got a lot of good folks. But it could be great. Right now, we're making America good again. I wish we could make America moral again. Then America could be great again. But that's a whole nother topic. But Rand Paul put forth a plan that he emailed me that I thought is pretty impressive. And I want to get your take on it, Sheriff. Senator Rand Paul says, my 5-step plan to crush the swamp. Good plan. Wish we could enact it. Here it is. He says the only way to get less government and less government waste is to give bureaucrats less money to spend.
Very
true.
Do
you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I don't know why Trump isn't talking about this plan. But, see, they should be sitting down and talking about this plan rather than arguing over tariffs. See, when are we going to learn to focus on the positive and things that can actually move forward rather than the things that just get nothing done and just create fights amongst our own selves?
But Rand
it's
Paul,
insanity.
that's the plan? That's it? One sentence?
No. He's just telling you the only way to do it is to reduce spending. Then he says, here's how we do it. So here's the 5-step plan. You ready?
Yeah.
1, evaluate every agency and their spending line by line. What do you say?
They've been doing a lot of that with the DOGE that the Democrats think is
that DOGE doesn't have any power. They just have recommendations. They're getting nowhere. Until Congress does it, it's nothing.
Correct.
So Rand Paul is telling Congress and telling America we have got to evaluate every agency's spending line by line. So he's supporting DOGE, but he's also saying Congress has got to get on it, and he's right.
Yep.
We, the American people, should be demanding that too. All right, here's number 2. Expose waste, fraud, and abuse. Expose waste, fraud, and abuse, Sheriff.
Which is what DOG has been doing. They've been exposing a lot.
But we need Congress to be exposing it too. Why do we need the DOJ? Congress controls the purse strings. They're the ones that should be watching the money. I appreciate DOJ. They're doing a good job, but it should be Congress doing this.
Correct.
All right. So anyway, that's his second one. Here's the third one. Cancel unnecessary government contracts.
Amen again with DOGE.
Yeah, and I think we need to cancel those contracts. But Congress is the only one that can cancel the contracts. DOJ can't do that.
No, they can expose it, which
and they should, and I commend them for doing it. Don't get me wrong. But unless we take it to Congress and Congress cancels the contracts, what good does it do? Just makes us lose faith in government, that's all. Feel like we can't do anything. We're all disenfranchised because, man, it's horrible, but we can't do anything about it kind of an attitude, which I reject. Number 4, close the doors on unneeded agencies like USAID. Amen. 100% agree. But look, how many government agencies have we closed the door on in the last 100 days? None. Have we shut down any agencies, Sheriff?
I don't think so.
Go ahead and skip the break, would you please, Liz? I don't think we've shut anything down. So Rand is right. Close the doors on those suckers. Number 5, and this is one of the most important ones, I think, develop a rescission package for Congress to vote on, making these cuts permanent. Now, that's the example that we're talking about. Now, usually the president might create a rescission package for Congress. Trump should file one of those, too. But what Rand Paul's saying is we've got to have a rescission package that says, hey, let's decrease these expenditures.
I'm not understanding. Wait. I'm not clarification.
Yeah.
What kind of package? I didn't understand the word you used. What kind of package?
Let me give you the name of it.
Did you say recidivism?
No. It's called rescission. RESCISSION. Rescission package. And if you study rescission, it basically means, hey, there's money out there that we haven't spent that was previously authorized. Let's quit spending that money. And it takes Congress to vote to stop that spending and pull back the money. President Trump can't do that. He doesn't have authority. But the Congress can. And so Rand Paul's calling for this rescission package to be introduced, and he's introducing one. So listen to, here's what he's going to introduce. Rand Paul is determined to get another $500 billion rescission package passed through Congress. To me, that's the most important thing you could possibly do.
You see, and if they would make these bills simple for everyone to understand, and American people can watch this as Democrats continue to vote for more spending and don't get rid of waste and fraud, put every single one of these politicians on notice, and put them on record as what side they're on. And I think that would do a lot.
100%. So Rand Paul's getting this $500 billion rescission package together. He wants to get it passed through Congress. Now, if enough Americans backed Rand Paul in that, if President Trump sat down with Ron Paul and advocated for that, just think what we could get done. He's talking about $500 billion, $500 billion rescission package in place. Now, that's real leadership. That's what we need to see done.
And Rand and President could be working together on some stuff they totally believe in.
And Rand Paul has put together a save money plan in the past. He's written it annually of what could be saved. Doge has done their work. We've already set the stage. Now we've got leadership. But unless enough congressmen and senators jump aboard, unless the president makes an issue out of it, and unless we the people get involved in it, it's going to be DOA for Rand, right?
Yeah. Well, on the news, it's showing that Rep. Thompson, who a Democrat, is saying that Trump is taking a chainsaw to federal. Hang on a sec.
So Trump's taking a chainsaw. That's what the Democrats and the liberals would say.
To federal services. Thank goodness.
Well, if it's really true.
If it's really true, yeah.
See, I don't believe it's true. I think Trump says that
and
throws out these executive orders, but they got to pass a judge, and if Congress doesn't back it, it's going to be DOA.
Congress has to be involved in it.
That's right.
He can't use that chainsaw by himself.
Well, what is Congress doing?
Nothing.
No one even knows what Congress is doing. Can anybody tell me what Congress has really done? What are they doing today? When are they starting work today? Why don't you try and call your congressman or senator and find out? They won't even answer the phone, buddy. Mm-hmm. So, can we even know when they're going to start work today and what they're going to be working on? They're our employee, okay? Can we even know what they're doing right now? Okay, you could say, well, you can't track your congressman 24/7, Sam. He has a life. Fine, we're talking about in the middle of a business day in the middle of the week. What is it, Tuesday? And it's 11:49 a.m. in D.C. It's the middle of a work week. Should I be able to know where my congressman is and what he's doing in general? I don't even know if he's in Utah or on a vacation or going into Congress today. I don't know what bills he's voting on. I have no idea what he's doing. Zero. Do you have any idea what your congressman is doing, Sheriff?
I get campaign notices from him quite often that he's running for governor.
What does that have to do with his job, sir?
Not very much.
Really, if he's a congressman, the answer is nothing, right? Running for governor has nothing to do with representing you in Congress.
Well, he's already announced that he is. And
all right, but what's he doing today, though, or what's he doing this week? Even if you say, well, you can't, track him every 30 seconds, Sam, be realistic. Fine. What is he working on this week? Is he in Utah or in Arizona, or I might be able to see him? Or is he in D.C.? And what's he generally focused on? What's he working on? Can you know?
Right.
And the only thing you can do is go to their page on the internet, whatever, and possibly read a little summary of what he puts up. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't know if they're in session. I don't even know anything about it. And you say, well, Sam, that's just because you're an idiot and you don't know where to look. Okay, you can call me that if you want to, and it's probably true. But I would say this, I'm no different than most of the American people. And if you want to get the American people involved in making a difference for their own country and not feel disenfranchised, you better get that together and soon. Because you know what? We're starting the next election cycle for Congress. And now they've got to run on what they've accomplished, Sheriff. What have they accomplished that you know of? What can you advocate that they've done where you're like, you know what, elect these people because they're doing great?
Well, many of them, the Republicans will be saying, I totally supported Trump's agenda, and we were working to get him to help Tom
What's
Homan.
the agenda?
But show me a bill that they've passed that does any of that.
Well, what's the agenda even, though? I'm having a hard time knowing what the agenda is.
Hopefully decreasing spending.
We're not decreasing spending, so if we're talking about that for the agenda, none of it's happened.
We're talking about tax. That big, beautiful bill of Trump's does have some tax cuts. Not spending, but tax cuts.
Yeah, but unless we cut spending, it just means we're borrowing more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good that we're getting tax cuts, but it's bad that we're borrowing more, Mm-hmm. And so I don't even really know what Trump's agenda is. Let me give you an example. Deportations. Hey, we're not on a serious deportation bender. We might be getting rid of the worst offenders, but we're not on a serious unprecedented historical deportation. We're not on that. We're not. When it comes to reducing spending, we're not on that. When it comes to passing tax, relief, we've wasted the last 120 days in Congress. We haven't voted for any of that yet. In fact, I don't even know what bills are being discussed to do that in a real sense, except for a big, beautiful bill that no one's read or seen that changes every day, right?
Right.
So, again, I'm pointing directly at Congress and saying Congress and the courts, the activist, out-of-control judges, are the biggest impediment to Trump. And I'm telling you right now, you got to get that fixed for the next 100 days or you'll be where we are now. And I haven't meant to complain to be negative, but I meant to say, look, we're being shut down by the deep state. And you better do something to break this logjam for the next 100 days, because if you don't, you will not get elected next time. That's what I'm saying, and we got a very short window on that, Sheriff.
Well, politically speaking, there's a very short window for Trump, and it's called the midterm elections of 26. And if the election in Canada is any indication, he's in trouble, or the Republicans are in trouble. The country's in trouble.
What one thing could he do that could turn that around, you think? Or what one or two or three things could he do to turn that around? You've got a couple of minutes for your one or two or three, and I'll do one or two or three, and let's put it right squarely in solution camp.
One, if he stops and does a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine, that would be huge. If he gets the economy back up and running, and that tariffs proved that he was correct, that it did bring in a lot more money than it cost, and that it brought nations together to make a fair and equitable deal with America. And if he actually does start getting rid of some agencies like the Department of Education, which the Democrats are already screaming at him about, that he's going to ruin education for America.
Congress should have got rid of that first day. They've been talking about it for 30 years.
Correct. And get rid of the income tax or drastically reduce it. for most Americans and really get rid of the IRS and the Federal Reserve. I think that will go a long way to getting him there, and maybe cancel a few other bureaucracies like Department of Labor and FDA and a few others. Of course, if people started getting sick, then they're going to blame that. But there's already checks and balances on that sort of thing in each state. There's environmental quality in each state, so they could get rid of the EPA, and they could free up the land, turn land back over to the states, and instead of making it where people can't get on public lands, that they actually start farming, ranching, and drilling on public lands. Absolutely. So I think if he had some success in all of those categories I just mentioned, especially the war in Ukraine, maybe he gets the Nobel Peace Prize, something like that. That'd go a long way to adding to his credibility and
hey, man, I agree with everything you said. So here's the ones that I would put in place. I would say you got a 10-tuple down on pro-life, and unequivocally educate the American people that abortion is murder, even if you do chemical abortions. I would prosecute anybody that sends abortion pills across state lines where it's illegal in a given state to perform an abortion, but yet you backdoor sending this abortion murder medication or whatever. I'd prosecute all those people that are guilty of those deaths, first of all. And I would stand on pro-life like nobody's business. I'd defund Planned Parenthood, and I would literally file criminal charges against Congress as president if they don't do that immediately, saying they're guilty of murder as well. I'd be absolutely hardcore on that. The second thing I would do if I was President Trump is I'd dismiss all the clown enemy media. The ones that are guilty of 92% negative coverage, I would just simply not talk to them anymore. And I would talk to all the new media taking center stage that are at least honest. They don't all have to be Trump supporters. They can be critical from time to time. That's fine. That's the value of the press. It's necessary. But at the same time, can we be honest about what Trump's really saying and doing? And, okay, I would dismiss the bogus press and I'd embrace the new media taking center stage like nobody's business. Then the next thing I would do is my ultimate goal would be to reduce spending in government. Yeah. And Rand Paul has set the stage to get that done. And I would back Rand Paul's play, and I would go to the Senate and sit down with them and say, how many senators can I get that will double down with me and make this a 24/7 news cycle that we're reducing spending, and the next bill to be passed will prove it. And so those are the things that I would do. I would support pro-life. I'd reject the bad media, and I would start to deliver results to the American people by reducing costs of government. Government doesn't generate any new revenue or any prosperity or any value. They just suck on the teat of the American people. And so I would reduce spending. That'll give Americans a tax cut just by doing that alone. And then I would start to cut taxes, and I'd start to promote, small business and all that kind of stuff. But if you reduce spending and you really get that done and codified by Congress, you would know that it's serious. And then I would escalate deportations. I'd get rid of more of the bad guys. But I'd find a way for those who aren't really bad people that are here, I'd find a way for them to move forward in a meaningful way.
Right.
And that would be the justice and mercy immigration plan. Anyway, those are the things that I would do. I wanted to spend time on that because I don't want to just complain, Sheriff. It's fine to complain if you provide solutions. If you just complain with no solutions, it's a waste of time. I hope we use this narrow window. And then the last thing I would do if I was President Trump is I'd lead a religious revival in this country. We have got to turn back to God Almighty, Sheriff.
Amen to that.
All right, brother, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
See you soon, Sam. Thank you so much.
Sheriff Richard Mack, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA.org. Become a member of the posse today, will you please? This show is syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network, lovingliberty.net, incredible talk radio around the clock. God save the Republic.